happened?
Something I just don't understand.
Ed Harrington! Ed Harrington! Why doesn't anybody remember me?
I don't know what you mean, Colonel. You came in here alone.
Please, Ed. Please come back.
Ed Harrington never existed, or at least that's what we are to believe. He was never here or a part of the experimental X-20 flight into space or in the crash landing the flight had in the Mojave Desert. If, however, you find yourself having an odd feeling of remembering an extra person on that flight besides Lieutenant Colonel Clegg Forbes and Major William Gart, it would be best to ignore that feeling, or else you may end up in the Twilight Zone.
What kind of feeling?
It's like I didn't belong here.
I swear to you, it happened. I know it happened.
I wouldn't be surprised if you don't remember anything about this episode of The Twilight Zone, or anything about the X-20 flight and how it went 900 miles into space for a 31-hour flight before completely disappearing along with its crew for a solid 24 hours, where they then crash landed in the Mojave Desert and were picked up and brought back to the hospital to be questioned on exactly what happened. But we never get those answers, because the real question we should be asking is, why were they allowed to come back? And if that doesn't make you want to watch this episode, there's nothing more that I can do for you, because this is one of my favorites that no one else ever seems to remember.
Never remember.
But maybe that's because of how good this episode is at telling its story. Maybe the point of this episode is to be forgotten. But I suppose for you to even be able to forget about this episode, you first have to know about Major William Gart and Lieutenant Colonel Clegg Forbes, and how Major William Gart is still currently in the hospital because during the crash landing, he messed up his leg. And so we pick up with Lieutenant Colonel Clegg Forbes coming back to the hospital after being released the day before to check in with him and to talk with him about something odd that is going on. But before he makes it to Major Gart's room, he first runs into a couple nurses. Then after chatting for just a moment and telling them that he's feeling fine, he asks if Major Gart is here.
Of course. He's here.
Of course.
He then laughs to himself and has this odd look of relief knowing that his friend is still here. The nurses don't understand. They can clearly tell something is a little off with Colonel Forbes, so they just tell him, your friend is down the hall, you can go and visit him. He's in the same room that he's been in, the same room that Colonel Forbes was in just yesterday. It's as he walks away that we stay with the nurses for a moment, as they confirm with one another that that was Colonel Forbes, and that he was one of the men in the crash. Though before Colonel Forbes can make it all the way down this hall, Rod Serling returns to let us know that what awaits him behind this door is a mystery and its answer, both of which will change the fate of Forbes and Gart forever. Colonel Forbes, I'm so glad that you're here. I need to speak with you and Major Gart about the incident. Listen, I know this will be a lot to understand, but I was sent here by ZocDoc to help the three of... Oh no. No, it's already started? Okay, all right, I can figure this out. There is a reason all of my past patients gave me such high ratings on ZocDoc, because I am a top-rated doctor. Forbes, Gart, something went very wrong when the three of you came back down from space, and now something else is trying to correct that wrong by removing you and every memory of you from existence. Just like this. Well, whether I'm here or there, I guess as long as I've got my phone, I can always just pull up the ZocDoc app, so I'll be able to find and book an appointment with another top-rated doctor at any time. And I guess if Forbes and Gart also end up here, they too will be able to find a doctor to help with both the mental strain of spiraling off into an endless void and get Gart's leg all fixed up since it was messed up in the accident. Even though I'm not sure what insurance they take, I guess they'll have to just sort all of the doctors to see which ones actually take their insurance, and then they can also read the reviews to find some more top-rated doctors. If only there was a way that I could tell either of them and everyone else to stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/Polter to find and instantly book an appointment with a top-rated doctor today, regardless of where you're at or what time it is. You need to visit ZocDoc.com/Polter. And thank you, ZocDoc, for sponsoring this video, even all the way out here. When we return, Forbes enters into the room and is happily greeted by his friend Gart, who has a ton of questions about what's going on outside of the hospital, what Forbes has been up to, what everyone's saying after their historical flight, but Forbes is too distraught and struggles to answer any of these questions, to the point that Gart tells him that he looks off, causing Forbes to question how. And Gart suggests that maybe he's hungover.
Bill, something's happened. Something I just don't understand.
But before Forbes goes into any detail, he needs to first see what Gart remembers, just from yesterday, as a way to ground himself, because he is nearly convinced that he's losing his mind. And it's here that I need to point out a few things. First off, Gart's first name is William, which is why he called him Bill, but also the fact that Gart needed to point out that Forbes might be hungover. If this episode were made today, it would focus heavily on the fact that Forbes likes to drink. And it's here in the episode, and we should be reminded that when Forbes begins to explain to Gart what he remembers from yesterday, that this is something Gart would have on his mind. Not that his friend is losing his mind, but simply that he took it a little too far last night, because he remembers him leaving at 9 a.m. yesterday, to which Forbes has to interrupt and question, who did he leave with? Of course, Gart tells him no one, and it's here that Forbes holds up a newspaper to prove otherwise, telling Gart to read it, and then explain exactly who is in the picture. And of course, it's just the two of them. The only two that were on the ship, and the only two that went missing and crash landed in the desert. Just the two of them in that room. Forbes takes the paper back and crumbles it, realizing what's printed there, as he begins to explain to Gart what he remembers from yesterday, and how there wasn't two of them, there was three. Three of them were on that flight. Him, Gart, and Colonel Ed Harrington.
He was my best friend. I'd known him for 15 years, and you'd known him for 5.
There was always three of them. Three of them were on that flight. They were in the crash together, and then they were brought here together in this room until yesterday, when Forbes and Harrington, who were only scratched a little, got discharged before Gart because his leg is still messed up. Forbes remembers and knows for a fact that there were 3. But Gart tells him he doesn't know anyone named Harrington. There were only ever 2 of them on that flight. There were only ever 2 of them in this room. And he's so concerned for his friend that he begins to reach for the call button to get a doctor in here to check on Forbes. But Forbes grabs his arm and tells him just to listen. No one else has believed him so far. No one else knows who he's talking about, but he knows the truth. He knows that Harrington was there, and now he's gone.
I swear to you, it happened. I know it happened.
It's here that we flash back to what Forbes remembers from yesterday, as he's telling all of this to Gart, starting off by saying that Gart specifically told Harrington to watch Forbes because he drinks too much, which of course is a joke, but not too much of one, because Forbes and Harrington are headed to a bar to celebrate all of them making it back alive. All 3 of them. According to the paper, it was in fact 3 of them that went up into space and returned. Even the picture proves it. This isn't a big deal other than them basically being celebrities now. So Forbes and Harrington leave Gart, telling him that they might be back tomorrow to check in on him. First, they need to go to the bar, who the bartender immediately recognizes the both of them. even saying that he doesn't often get celebrities in here, so they don't have to pay for their drinks. They both take a seat at the bar, Forbes beating Harrington to the seat closest to the lady that both of them keep eyeballing, and as she leans over to ask Forbes what it's like up there in space, Forbes begins to answer, but we don't hear what he says because we cut over to Harrington just as he's about to light a cigarette. But then he stops. Not even Forbes leaning over to speak with him brings him back. It's the lit match burning his fingers that does that. Forbes is a little concerned, and so is the bartender, but they all just shrug it off as Forbes lifts his glass and goes to make a toast between him and Harrington. To which Harrington slowly picks his up and then drops it in the floor. The bartender says that's okay, it's not the first time that a glass is broken here, it won't be the last, and gets him another one. And Forbes questions him on what's wrong, if he feels sick or what is happening, and Harrington just tells him that he feels weird, even having broken out in a cold sweat, as he says that it's a feeling unlike anything he's ever had.
What kind of feeling? It's like I didn't belong here.
Like if he were to let go, he would just disappear. Harrington takes a breath and then takes up his glass to make that toast. After a sip, though, he gets this strange look and he stands, claiming that he needs to call his parents. Before he can make it to the phone booth in the corner of the bar, he stops and he looks back at Forbes. Forbes wonders if he's okay, and Harrington says, unconvincingly, that he's just fine. We see Harrington go to the phone booth, request for the operator to call back to his family in Iowa, and then we cut to him looking and sounding even worse after his phone call as he steps out of the phone booth to yell for Clegg to come here. It takes a little bit of convincing to get Forbes over here to see what is going on with Harrington, and just as he finally does walk over, Harrington sits down. It's immediately clear to Forbes that something is very wrong. Harrington begins to explain that he called home and his mother answered the phone. Forbes leans in, expecting to hear that maybe his father has passed away or something along those lines, but instead, Harrington says that his mother didn't know who he was.
She said she didn't have any son named Ed Harrington. That's what she said, Clegg.
He then tried his hardest to get her to cut out this weird joke, and then he explained who he was, to the point that his father took over the phone call and demanded that he stop calling to play this cruel joke on his wife. They've never had a son named Ed Harrington. They've never had a son at all. Harrington then asked what it could mean. And Forbes tries his best to reassure him that it's just a joke, a really weird one. But Ed shakes his head. He knows it's not. All of this must be a part of that feeling that he shouldn't be here, that they shouldn't be here. As if Harrington stops, staring off into nothing. Forbes has to lean in and ask him what's wrong. What was he going to say? And it doesn't quite bring Harrington all the way back, but he does at least answer. It's as if they shouldn't have come back from their flight into space. Maybe something or someone made a mistake, and they were able to get through when they shouldn't have. Forbes tries to shake all of this off and just tells Harrington to relax for a moment while he goes to get him something stronger to drink. Because of course, that would be his answer. And it's the instant that he steps back out of the phone booth, Harrington attempts to jump up, but Forbes grabs him and sits him back down, telling him just to take it easy. That strange look, though, returns to Harrington's face as he continues to stare off into nothing, now with a bit of a smile on his face. Forbes steps back, staring at Harrington like he's lost his mind, but it's what he sees on the front page of the newspaper before he can make it back to the bar that has him believing he too is losing it. It's the same image on the front page that we have already seen. The same one that Forbes will show Gart in the hospital the next day, the image without Harrington in it. Forbes takes the newspaper, ignoring the looks of the man that he's taken it from, and hurries back to the empty phone booth. Trying to process what is happening, Forbes walks back over to his spot at the bar, and the woman tells him that he has a beer here for him, which has him realize it's just his beer there. So he looks up at the bartender and asks where's his buddy's drink, and the bartender doesn't understand the question, only responds with, "What?" Forbes reiterates his buddy, the man that he came in with, Colonel Harrington, the beer the bartender made after he dropped his first one. The floor is dry and clean, and the bartender tells the very confused Forbes,
I don't know what you mean, Colonel. You came in here alone.
Forbes snaps back, calling the bartender a wise guy, but before he can really lay into him at all, Forbes looks again at the newspaper. Only 2 of them returned. He shakes his head, knowing that isn't right and that he isn't crazy. Everyone else is crazy. He screams at the bartender and then everyone else that it's them that's crazy, not him, just before running out of the bar to piece together whatever is happening. We find him next in his hotel room, attempting to call one of his commanding officers to see if they know what all of this can mean, but the operator tells him it'll take a minute. They have to get through to someone and then they can call him back to connect him with someone higher up. It's just then that someone knocks at the door and we hear Forbes say, "Ed, you could tell he's irritated, but relieved at the same time." But when he opens the door, it's not Ed Harrington. Instead, it's his girlfriend, Amy, who he was supposed to meet but then didn't, and who is now very angry with him. After a quick hug from Forbes, Amy steps in, calling him all sorts of names, saying that she received his wire about them meeting at the bus station at 12 tonight. She was there at 12, and at 1, and still waiting there at 2. She checked so many bars, and then she went on to check a bunch of hotels. Forbes cuts in, only saying, "Amy, please," before completely breaking down. With his head in his hands, Amy moves to his side, trying to figure out what is going on, what's wrong. And Forbes attempts to explain that he did get out of the hospital today and did intend on meeting her at that bus station. Him and Ed were supposed to. It was in the wire. It was in the telegram. He wrote it down that him and Ed Harrington were supposed to meet her at the bus station. Excitedly, he kisses Amy on the forehead and scrambles to find the note that he wrote. And when he finally does find it, he walks over and shows it to Amy as proof that he isn't crazy. Here in this note that he wrote, it says that he got out of the hospital today and that he would meet her at the bus station.
I wrote down that Ed and I were...
Ed? Who's Ed?
Amy doesn't know any Ed. Even with Forbes explaining all of the times that they met, all of the things that they had done together, the dinners, the dances, the double dates, his best friend, Ed Harrington. Amy pulls Forbes in close and asks, what is the matter with him? What's happening right now? He grabs onto her, sobbing because he doesn't know. When just then the phone rings. He pushes Amy to the side and rushes to grab the phone, immediately expressing his excitement to speak with the general. And then he apologizes for bothering him so late, but simply had to speak with him about Ed Harrington, a man that the general doesn't know. Gritting his teeth, Forbes repeats the name, Ed Harrington. He tells the general that surely he remembers him. They were both under his wing in the field. They were both there with him for the past 19 months. It was him, Major Gart, and Colonel Ed Harrington that had gotten into the X-20 craft and made the trip up into space.
Ed Harrington! Ed Harrington! Why doesn't anybody remember me?
I've already said it. It's because Ed Harrington never existed. Slamming the phone down and Amy now standing next to him, Forbes gets this strange look on his face as he stands and begins smiling and laughing at the absurdity of such a joke. That's what it has to be. Just one big joke, and he tells Amy that it must be one giant and extremely elaborate gag. He laughs between every line as he slowly steps backwards out of the room onto the patio, explaining to Amy how he has figured it all out and knows that Ed must be back at the bar, as he then sprints off into the night to make his way back to where he saw Ed last. When he arrives, the door is locked, the lights are off, and no matter how many times he yells for Ed, no one answers. But surely this too is all part of the joke. Surely they couldn't make it that easy on him. Surely Ed is inside somewhere, and all he needs to do is get inside to find him. So Forbes throws himself through the glass of the front door and begins screaming for Ed. Still, no one comes out. Forbes slowly walks over to the bar, quietly calling for Harrington. But the only sound in response is the glass breaking under his footsteps. He continues calling for Ed, pushing a chair off of one of the tables, and then sitting down in the same phone booth where he last saw his friend, all while he's still whispering for Ed to come back.
Please, Ed. Please come back.
And then we are back in Major Gart's hospital room, because that was the last thing Forbes remembers. He guesses that at some point he got up and began running like some crazy man down the street. He doesn't even know what happened to Amy. He supposes that he just left her standing there in the hotel room confused and scared, just as Major William Gart is now. As he looks at Forbes and he tells his friend, the only co-pilot of the X-20, that he doesn't know any Ed Harrington. He tells Forbes that Ed must be some illusion that his mind has made up after their trip and subsequent crash. Forbes, though, knows Ed wasn't an illusion, and he tells this to Gart, as the same strange look comes over his face. Staring off into nothing, he remembers what Ed said and explains it to Gart again, that something or someone made a mistake. It then let them get through when it shouldn't have, and is now coming back for them. He smiles and laughs at this new feeling that he has. Covered in sweat, he chuckles to himself and tells Gart that he feels just weird. Just plain weird, like he doesn't belong. As he stands and slowly lifts his hands to his tingling face and makes his way over to the mirror in the room, where he looks and only sees Gart's reflection from across the room. It's this that brings Ford back to reality as he begins screaming that he doesn't want this to happen, and he rushes over, grabs onto Gart one last time before darting out of the room, shrieking all the way down the hall.
I don't want it to happen! I don't want it!
Gart gets out of bed and rushes over to the doorway, standing there staring at an empty hall, yelling for someone to help him, and a nurse rushes to his side, stating that he shouldn't be out of bed, but Gart cuts her off, demanding that she get some help for Colonel Forbes. But she doesn't know who that is. This stops him for a moment as he then questions her on if she knows Forbes. And she's never heard of him. But he knows that that can't be the truth. Forbes was here this morning. Forbes was brought in with Gart after the crash. Forbes was in the other bed in the... There's only one bed in this room. There's only ever been one bed in this room, and that makes Gart go quiet. He covers his mouth in shock, not knowing what to say. The nurse leads him by the hand over to the bed, where Gart has this look of confusion yet understanding. that everything Forbes just told him was the truth. Lying down, the nurse runs from the room to get Major Henderson. Looking around, Gart quickly sits up the moment he spots the newspaper, as the title now reads, "Lone Spaceman Completes Journey." Lands in desert with a picture of just him below it. Breaking out in a cold sweat, Major William Gart covers his mouth to keep from screaming the same words that he last heard from Colonel Clegg Forbes as he slowly lays back into the bed, now having that same distant look on his face. We next see the nurse with Major Henderson. Both are in no rush, and the only reason they're even here is to check this ward to see what rooms are available.
Room 15 down here can take 3 patients, sir. It's empty.
Let's take a look.
Sure enough, when they open the door, the room is empty. All the beds are gone, just as it always has been. Nothing to note, nothing wrong. All the things the way they were meant to be. Serling returns to clarify a few things for us, saying that once upon a time, a man named Harrington, a man named Forbes, and a man named Gart used to exist, and now they don't. Someone or something took them somewhere. The only thing for certain is that they're gone, along with every memory of them or the flight they took. The room is empty, just as it always has been. The same with the hangar where the craft was being held. And if you find yourself asking any questions about 3 men that flew a ship into space, it's best to do it quietly and only in the Twilight Zone. Now, setting aside the warning from Serling, you probably wonder exactly why it was that Harrington lasted as long as he did, and then Forbes lasted as long as he did, but then Gart only lasted like this long. And it's because, and this is Serling's explanation that he wasn't able to really get across in the episode like he wanted to, is that Harrington had a weird feeling, understood that something was happening, and then the moment that he speaks with his parents, that's when it begins to click that something is really wrong and that this is going to happen, that he's being pulled away. Forbes, on the other hand, because he's in denial for so long trying to find someone that remembers, it's not until he has the realization towards the end and tries to run away that he knows it's going to happen, so it does. And it's the same thing with Gart, that he has the realization that everything Forbes said was true and has no way to deny it. It's just plain and there in front of him because of Forbes' explanation of everything that we've done this before that happened.
We've been here before.
And that leaves us with, you've been here before. A weird twist of an empty room. I don't know why I picked this episode. I'm sorry. You've always been here.
Before.
I guess I've been recording for too long. I don't know why I picked this episode.
The room is empty,
If
just as it always has been.
you can't even call it it's just an empty room at the end.
We've done this before.
I'm so sorry. I don't know. Something. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. This isn't right. Did something happen? This isn't okay. Something is wrong. I feel
Like I didn't belong here.
I feel like I wasted your time. I'm sorry.
You don't remember.
You never remember.
Time and time again. Thanks for watching. I guess. Thanks to the channel members. I have a bunch of other videos planned. It wasn't my fault that they got through. I figured it would be nice to come back to the Twilight Zone for the 21st episode of the Twist series. It's been 20 episodes. Yeah, 20 episodes since I had to be the one to come and clean up the mess. It's because you won't accept your own reality. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. This isn't right. This isn't cool. This isn't okay. Something is wrong. Weird.
We've been here
like
before.
way early in the morning.
I'm
I
sure
should have just
we'll
done
be
this
here
tomorrow.
again.
Or I should have done it yesterday. I'm sorry. Thanks for watching. I've got to go. You leave me no choice. We have to start again.
Maybe it's best this way.
This can't. Please, just take my hand. Have an extra blessed day. I need your hand. If you want me to see you in the next, you still leave me with no choice.
The truth may be too much for you to handle.
We'll just have to start again.
Because you've been here before. We've already done this. You don't remember. You never remember.